Hello, my name's Todd Morrill. I'm the owner over here at Staunch Robots, and I'm here to tell you guys about the Master Services Agreement. Basically, I think when people get contracts, they tend to be a little bit, I don't know, they're hard to read. There's a layer of inaccessibility about it, and so I thought I'd make this video to kind of demystify and communicate some of the spirit behind the terms. So First of all, if any of you have never worked with a master service agreement, the idea here is that the contract has two parts. One is a master service agreement, and the other is a statement of work. So that basically, all of the general terms that are in every contract are going to be in the master service agreement, and then which will be kind of like the governing contract for the relationship. And then you'll have a lot of different projects with it once you. So the master service agreement is like the blanket contract, and then the statement of work outlines specific contracts that you would be going into, specific projects. So the master service agreement is more broad, and then the statement of work is kind of more flexible and specific. First of all, I'd like to tell you guys this. I'm trying to make this whole thing pretty brief. My goal here is to kind of skim through the stuff that's more kind of template and boilerplate, and then drill into the stuff that I think is more specific and interesting. I just wanted to start and show you guys a little bit about where this came from. There's a company called HashRocket, which is one of the most respected companies in the United States for Ruby on Rails consulting, and they actually, well, it looks like I closed the tab, but if you look here, the owner here of this company, his name is Obi Fernandez, and he was one of the owners there at HashRocket, and he actually sells and comments on a master service agreement that they use. So they have this whole blog here that kind of goes through their master service agreement, and I was reading it and saying, "Wow, that's pretty nice. I like what you did in that provision. I like what you did in that provision." And basically I bought theirs. I just bought it, and then I slightly edited it. So if you really want to drill in, you might want to go over to the same blog here, and you can read kind of point by point through his comments on each part of the blog. But go back here to my version of it. All this stuff is totally boilerplate. I just took it right out of here. So a lot of this is basically in any contract. Cooperation. This basically just says someone from your client is going to name somebody, one person who is going to be the official spokesperson for your company, who is the one who's making legally binding decisions. So we just have that explicitly understood. Not too many. One person at the end of the day is the one whose decision matters, and we know who they are. One thing that Obi from HashRocket did a lot in his contract that I like is he used a lot of language that I would say softens the contract. A lot of times you have you have a lot of contracts, and each provision is like a dagger, kind of defending from certain potential attacks. And so we have a lot of language in here this is sort of like what I call like a West Coast contract. It's kind of soft and friendly. So stuff like client understands that the company shall rely upon the client's representative as having the authority specified in Section 2 herein, and that all official communications from the company to client shall be addressed to client's representative. It's like we're relying on you. It's not like we're protecting ourselves. It's just that we're communicating. It's about provisions that soften, which I just think is kind of nice. This provision here talks we're independent contractors as opposed to employees. I liked this provision about company personnel. Basically, client acknowledges that it is company's standard policy to not allocate the same personnel to any one project for more than 3 months, and that it's up to us to decide, who we staff on the project. I've actually, this is one of the things I was reading that made me want to buy this MSA, because I've had sort of clients fall in love with contractors, which sounds like a great thing, but sometimes the contractor doesn't want to be stuck in that project for his entire life, and sometimes the contractors enjoy maybe spend circling around projects. They like kind of getting into a project for 3 months and then working in another team 3 months later. And sometimes, if one contractor gets siloed on one project working alone or something like this, it becomes sort of a morale problem for the contractor. And also we want for the client to sort of build a relationship with the brand, not with a specific individual. So, I think this whole idea of, look, you're building a relationship with us, not with any one particular individual, and kind of being upfront about that is important. I also think that I know people. This is interesting because I know some people have had kind of taking advantage of on this. They've had like they interview one of the guys in India or whatever, and they get impressed by one guy, and then they kind of bait and swap for a junior guy, and and people get stung by that, and then afterwards they want to sort of be like, oh, we really want to know the guy beforehand, who's the guy, and interview them. Um, I understand that, but all of our guys are highly senior, and that's just it's again something that we're trying to build a brand of highly specialized guys and not get locked into these kind of like making relationships with individuals. So that's all about this company personnel provision that I think is important. This is a generally just relatively softening statement. It just says something like, look, we're programmers, and from time to time we will do similar things for other clients. And it's very just, oh, that sounds like it makes sense. Okay, great. Stuff that we don't have to. It's just kind of interlacing provisions that are kind of soft and mutual into the contract. This is a really important provision. I thought this was really important. As they were Ruby on Rails consultancy, they kind of broke up Type A and Type B deliverables, where basically Type A deliverables are deliverables that are related to your business logic, which is defined here. Stuff that's like specific designs about your business model, stuff that's very specific to your custom graphics, custom views, JavaScript, stuff that's kind of client-facing, some stuff that's kind of end-user-facing and particular to your business goals. But sometimes when we're working on things, we're going to be building things that are just kind of generic. I mean, like say a login system, for example. Say, we're reusing a login system in your project, and then we create we find a new bug in that login system. Can we not use that login system for the next client, or can we kind of have a part of the code that is stuff that we own and then can reuse, that is kind of generic and not really at all related to your personal intellectual property? So this kind of splits up this Type B deliverable and also grants you a lifetime license, which is elsewhere in this contract. So I like this. This is kind of very thoughtful to kind of talk about these two kinds of deliverables, and I think it's worth kind of noting. This stuff is just like saying who owns which deliverable, and that we license, that you get a lifetime license. Regarding warranties, basically there's one warranty, and this part I think is more generic, boilerplate. This one is kind of interesting. We give a warranty that we will do stuff in a professional manner. From qualified personnel. So theoretically, if you guys were to feel like this was done unprofessionally, and take us in front of a court and say this was done unprofessionally, and you were to hire in bring in maybe I don't know what the term is, but qualified professional who would say, look at our code and say, we give you guys the warranty that says we believe that the work that we do will stand up against an audit. We strive internally for what we would call best practices, but we at least warranty that things will be done well and professionally. So you have a warranty here that the work that we do for you will be done in a professional manner, that a third party could audit and say, yeah, these guys they did stuff well. So I like that. Compensation. So, oh yeah, this is probably the most important part, and this is so important that I really go into detail on it in the SOW. But just briefly speaking, that yes, we're compensated on a time and materials basis, which is really a time basis mostly. I mean, there's some reimbursable fees or expenses that occasionally happen, but 98% of the invoice is going to be for time. So, and that's going to be talked about in a planning estimate, where you're going to be getting, okay, this is basically this project is X weeks, and with 3 people, and each person costs this amount, and So, but then I guess this is probably the one thing that I'm probably the most sort of bulldogish on, that I really just can't, this is the one thing I guess I'm probably the most passionate about, and it's really probably the most important provision in the contract. The reality is that we're a small business without a lot of cash flow. So I've never not received money from a client, and the reason why that is because I get money before we do the work. If we were to do the opposite, where basically we're giving you a credit line that, say 87% of clients 87% of clients, honor, or 97%, whatever percent it is that doesn't honor it, that 4 or 5%, being able to take those losses is not something that I'm currently building into my margins. So, we offer you guys the best rates that we can, and in order to do that, we have to eliminate the possibility of non-payment. And the only way I know how to do that is, a retainer agreement. I suppose, if you guys were, if I was working with an entity that had some kind of AA plus credit rating, I guess we could, consider doing an invoice. But I've never had a client yet that had some sort of a, officially, if Intel called me or something and they had, but most people, working with an LLC that's 2 years, so whatever. We've never not done a retainer, and it's probably, and like I said, it's the one provision that I think is the most important because it insulates me from non-payment. And yeah, this is just talks about invoices and payment. You're going to get invoices weekly, applied against the retainer. It should be almost impossible that an invoice would exceed the retainer on file, because if that happened, we'd probably stop working. But occasionally, almost never, we will just kind of work beyond the retainer because of special circumstances. But if people don't pay that within 5 days, then we are kind of going out of our way to be lenient with you, and we feel that if you can't pay that, we are going to, I'm gonna have to pay the guys on my credit cards essentially, and then I'm going to be paying 20% interest, and I'm going to be asking you guys to reimburse me for those interest fees that I would incur if you guys were to break bad. So hopefully that won't happen, but I guess that is worth mentioning. Expenses, really, there's not a whole lot of expenses, but if you guys want any special servers or special service plans, we will reimburse you for the actual cost of the thing. Also, we occasionally we subcontract markup work out to a company called Pixelpressed, and they're really great, and we will just pass that expense through to you. They have 15 guys. All they do is markup, and they can do 7 pages in parallel, and it's just doesn't make it. It's all they do. They do it really well, and we tend to outsource that to them. So that's the biggest. Expense, which is mentioned here: companies, policies, some contracts, some HTML, CSS, and we have the ability to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in house, but being able to do large chunks of it, like 7 pages in parallel in 2 days. It's really better off for all parties, both financially and timeline-wise, to subcontract that to a professional. When we start a contract, you're going to get a statement of work, which also references a team planning, which says, here's the amount of guys for how many weeks, and but sometimes we may want to add an extra guy or subtract a guy, and it says here that you can add and subtract guys by just emailing me. So another thing is that my biggest job, part of my job here is to make sure that people are have income, but the company and the individual. So we do ask that once you do engage us, that you give us 14 days of notice before terminating. So that's what we have here. And then it says if you stop paying, for instance, if you all of a sudden we start giving you these payment terms, which are more outlined in the statement of work, and then you're not paying them, then we can cancel it outside of that 14 days because of monetary breach. And this is a general contract thing. I don't know. It's just a general boilerplate stuff. And then it says, oh, if we terminate, then you owe us the money in the invoice, and we also owe you all of the confidential information. This one here, public. Let me see. Actually, I'm not sure what public domain exactly is offhand. I would have to look that up. But this was something boilerplate. This is stuff. This is kind of classic NDA stuff. Reference is saying that hey, we can talk about your work to other clients or use it on our website. You as a reference, if this is a problem, sometimes we do white label work for other people. We don't have a problem taking this out, but generally speaking, we like to be able to be proud. Every project that we do for you is an opportunity for us to put our heart and soul into it, and then use it as. I feel like every project we do is our best project, so the most recent. So we'd like to be able to use and reference the work that we do in terms of our marketing and promotional materials. Limitations of liability. This is just standard boilerplate stuff that says that how much we're going to get sued. If you guys get sued, yeah, this is. I'll be honest with you. I don't pay a lot of attention to this. This is just in every single contract I've ever read. There's some limitation on how much you guys can sue us for. This one's kind of interesting. This basically says that, like, look, I mean, my assets as a company are the people I work with. I mean, I don't know how much of my time I spend interviewing people. It's at least half my job, and we don't hire very many people, and it's really hard to find great people. So, we spend a lot of time interviewing and training people, and we want some degree of an agreement that you're not going to just take our people, or send send them an email, say, hey, how would you like to come, have an H-1B, work for us on site, or any of that stuff. And and a lot of people have these very generic terms about it, but I was talking to my lawyer. I said, well, what would actually happen if they were to violate that? I mean, what kind of recourse do I have? And they said, and I just felt like the answer was very nebulous. So I just kind of made a very specific, very kind of, well, look, if for whatever reason you guys hire any of the people from within 2 years of terminating this agreement, you owe me $20,000, which, I honestly think is a little bit cheap. I mean, that's at least, I don't know. I feel like the guys we have working here are 100 grand a year, American employees, and that's 20% standard recruiting fee. So maybe some people would intentionally choose to violate this contract and owe me 20 grand. I should probably jump this up to 30 grand. Actually, I'm gonna do it. Because it's honestly, I think it should be 35 grand. So anyway, there you go. This stuff is all malleable. There you go. So if you want to take one of the guys for 35 grand, all right. I'm actually open to the idea that you guys could intentionally violate this contract and just pay me 35 grand for somebody. I could consider it. Official notice, standard stuff. That's my email address, and yours will be there. All this other stuff, totally boilerplate. This is just in every contract. All right, I hope that was under 10 minutes, and then I'm going to do another one on the service agreement, and I may, so stay tuned.